What happens when the state itself is the biggest thief? Corruption isn't just envelopes of cash. It's the hospital bed you can't get and the suffocating bureaucracy draining your taxes. Today, using the latest Transparency International data, we are ranking the 10 most corrupt countries inside the European Union. Throughout the video, we will also expose the dark reality hiding just outside the EU borders. And remember, this index isn't foreign political propaganda. It measures reality on the ground, based entirely on the daily experiences of the citizens and taxpayers themselves. When a nation is on this list, it's its own people screaming that the system is rigged against them. And since corruption, taxes and waste are all connected, if you want a follow-up video where we rank the top 10 European countries that legally burn your taxes through insane bureaucracy and public waste, write the word waste down in the comments. Welcome to Amazing Europe. Number 10. Cyprus. How much does a European identity cost? 2 million euros and a deliberate blind eye to your criminal record. Scoring 55 points, this Mediterranean island technically ties with Spain this year. But while Spanish corruption is largely a domestic political disease, we chose Cyprus because it engineered its entire economy to be a state-sponsored laundromat for global dirty money. Cyprus didn't just have a few corrupt officials taking bribes. It institutionalized the practice through its Golden Passports scheme. For years, the government legally sold EU citizenship to Russian oligarchs, fugitive billionaires, and international criminals. The enablers were the national elite, powerful law firms, real estate developers, and top-tier politicians. The system's breathtaking arrogance was captured on hidden camera in 2020, while a prominent local lawyer notoriously assured a fictitious Chinese criminal by whispering the infamous phrase, "This is Cyprus." The actual Speaker of the Cypriot Parliament was filmed offering his full political support to push the passport through. That undercover video forced resignations and killed the passport program, but the systemic rot remains. Even today, Cyprus struggles to purge the vast networks of shell companies and financial loopholes originally built for those passports, which are now frequently exploited by sanctioned Russian oligarchs. For ordinary Cypriots, the only legacy of this system is an unlivable, hyper-inflated housing market and a hijacked democracy. Number 9. Italy. What happens when traditional organised crime puts on a tailored suit and moves into the public administration? In Transparency International's ranking, Italy is in the 52nd position out of 181 countries analysed. Italian corruption thrives inside a suffocating labyrinth of over 160,000 overlapping laws. When bureaucracy is this intentionally complex, doing business honestly becomes a nightmare. It forces legitimate entrepreneurs to hire politically connected consultants just to secure basic permits. But the true engine of this rot is the modern alliance between white-collar professionals and mafia-linked criminals to drain public resources. Today, Italy holds the absolute European record for fraud investigated by the European Public Prosecutor's Office. Defenders will proudly argue this is only because Italy's financial police is incredibly efficient at catching criminals, which is absolutely true. Yet, the sheer staggering volume of the theft remains undeniable. In one recent massive bust, a criminal network siphoned over 600 million euros from the EU Post-Pandemic Recovery Fund. Instead of helping real businesses grow and modernise, the money vanished into crypto, luxury villas, and gold. Why are they so bold? Because the justice system features a notorious systemic loophole, endless appeals and legal time limits. With enough expensive lawyers, corrupt elites often stall their trials until the system simply gives up. Ultimately, Italian taxpayers pay Scandinavian-level taxes for crumbling infrastructure, deadly hospital waiting lists, and a rigged economy that forces their brightest youth to emigrate. Number 8. Poland. What is the ultimate form of corruption? It's not just stealing taxpayers' money, it is capturing the very judges who are supposed to put you in jail. Poland scores 53 points, technically tying with Italy this year. but it ranks lower because last year it held an even worse position. Poland's disease is the systemic hijacking of the state by its elites, regardless of which political side is in power. For years, politicians have attempted to pack the justice system with loyalists. When a country creates mechanisms to intimidate judges who investigate political corruption, stealing becomes perfectly safe. This tug of war for control of the courts has shattered public trust. But the rot isn't just political, it's economic too. Poland battles widespread managerial bribery and rigged public tenders. Recent scandals involving EU recovery funds revealed that millions of euros, meant to rescue struggling businesses, were spent on corporate yachts, tanning salons, and saunas. And if you think a change in government fixes this, think again. While recent administrations mishandled EU funds, the previous one was caught in a cash for visas scandal. Investigations exposed officials running a black market where up to 250,000 European work visas were allegedly sold to unqualified migrants. In Poland, corruption isn't just financial, it's the selling out of national security. Number 7. Greece. How does a modern European state crash 2 passenger trains head-on on a straight railway? You don't need a technical failure, you just need decades of unchecked clientelism. Scoring 50 points, Greece claims the 7th spot. Its systemic disease is a lethal cocktail of political dynasties and a public sector hijacked for patronage. Loyalty to the ruling party is the ultimate currency, transforming state services into an employment agency for unqualified voters and connected elites. The deadly consequence exploded with the 2023 Tempe train disaster, which killed 57 people. This was not just a simple human error, it was a massacre engineered by corruption. European prosecutors revealed that millions of euros meant to install automated railway safety systems had been squandered through rigged contracts for nearly a decade. The fatal mistake was made by a station master allegedly hired beyond the legal age limit through political favours. And the ultimate insult? The politicians who oversaw this catastrophic failure hid behind parliamentary immunity, while the crash site was hastily cemented over to allegedly destroy evidence. When independent journalists try to expose these failures, they find themselves wiretapped or targeted with illegal military-grade spyware. Greek taxpayers endured years of brutal austerity, only to watch their money fund nepotism and state surveillance instead of basic infrastructure. And this tragic blend of clientelism brings us to a crucial geographical reality. Greece sits at the southern tip of the Balkan Peninsula, a fact that forces us to briefly pause our EU countdown and look just across its northern borders. Before we enter the absolute worst of the EU, let's take a quick look outside its borders. If we had ranked the entire European continent today, all 6 countries of the Western Balkans would have crashed straight into the top 12 most corrupt nations. Each suffers from a specific lethal mutation of the disease. Montenegro is still battling the deep-rooted organised crime networks of its long-ruling elites. In Kosovo, corruption targets basic survival, highlighted by the recent State Reserves scandal where officials allegedly embezzled millions meant for emergency wheat and oil. In North Macedonia, political nepotism infects healthcare. A horrifying recent scandal revealed oncology clinic staff stealing life-saving chemotherapy drugs to sell on the black market, while allegedly injecting desperate cancer patients with saline water. Albania launders its money through fake infrastructure, like the €350 million incinerators scandal, massive state contracts paid out for waste plants that either barely function or literally do not exist, turning former ministers into wanted fugitives. Bosnia and Herzegovina is paralysed by post-war ethnic clientelism, a system so broken that even border police badges are routinely bought with cash bribes. But the darkest shadow falls on Serbia. Here, total state capture turns secret, foreign-backed infrastructure contracts into death traps. In late 2024, the opaquely reconstructed roof of the Novi Sad railway station collapsed, killing 15 people. When corruption infects concrete, citizens pay with their blood. But these nations are not yet in the EU. Let's return inside the supposedly safe borders. Number 6. Malta. What kind of European democracy answers journalistic investigations with a car bomb? Scoring 49 points, Malta claims the 6th spot. The brutal 2017 assassination of investigative journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia wasn't just a murder. According to a historic state public inquiry, the Maltese government itself must bear responsibility for her death by creating a climate of impunity, where the line between the government and organised financial crime completely vanished. Malta's specific disease is an impenetrable, incestuous relationship between political elites and big business. Recent polls show that nearly 90% of Maltese citizens believe business and politics are too closely linked. When favouritism is the state's economic model, political institutions are purposely kept paralysed to protect high-level corruption. The most staggering proof of this state capture is the infamous Vitals Hospital scandal. The government secretly handed over the management of 3 state public hospitals to a private consortium with absolutely zero medical experience. It was an orchestrated scam. While the government shielded the deal for years, relentless pressure from journalists and civil society finally forced the courts to annul it, revealing it was designed purely to siphon hundreds of millions of taxpayer euros into private offshore accounts. The fallout has been so massive that former Prime Minister Joseph Muscat is now facing criminal charges. In Malta, corruption isn't just about selling European passports, it's about selling citizens' health to the highest bidder. Number 5. Slovakia. What is the fastest way to avoid prison for corruption? You don't bribe the judge, you rewrite the rules of the system itself. Scoring 48 points, Slovakia reveals a bipartisan disease. Long before the current administration, scandals like Guerrilla exposed how oligarchs influenced politicians from across the entire political spectrum, both pro-EU and nationalist. The 2018 murder of journalist Jan Kuciak exposed how the EU's massive agricultural subsidies, which have been repeatedly targeted by fraud investigations, became a goldmine for local mafias. However, the reformers who came to power claiming to fight corruption were so chaotic and divided that they failed to stabilise the country, paving the way for the old guard's return. Today, the strategy has shifted toward legislative immunity. In 2024, the government abolished the Special Prosecutor's Office and restructured the elite Naka police unit. Supporters argue these bodies had become politicised weapons used by pro-EU rivals. Critics see a blueprint for impunity. Following the May 2024 assassination attempt on Robert Fico, the government restructured the public broadcaster RTVS to increase state oversight, a move defenders call restoring objectivity, while opponents call it a political takeover. Ultimately, Slovak citizens face a double failure: a central bureaucracy in Brussels whose funds were left vulnerable to systemic fraud, and a local elite now redesigning the scales of justice to suit themselves. Number 4. Croatia. What kind of government steals from its own severely ill patients to pad the pockets of its ministers? The kind that boasts one of the highest rates of political turnover in the European Union. Scoring 47 points, Croatia takes the 4th spot. Since joining the EU, this Mediterranean nation has mastered a specific art, treating European subsidies as a personal ATM for the ruling party. The symptom is a staggering level of ministerial corruption. Since taking power in 2016, the Prime Minister has replaced around 30 of his own ministers, primarily because they kept getting exposed in corruption probes. Defenders argue this proves the system works. Critics say it proves the entire ruling class is infected. The ultimate proof exploded in late 2024 with Health Minister Vili Beroš. He wasn't just taking envelopes, He allegedly ran a criminal organization that took massive kickbacks to purchase severely overpriced robotic medical equipment for public hospitals. While ordinary citizens wait months for crucial scans, their leaders were inflating the prices of life-saving machines to pocket the difference. When European prosecutors stepped in, Croatia's government-backed chief prosecutor immediately snatched the case away, insisting national agencies handle it, sparking outrage over a potential cover-up. How does the government respond to endless scandals? In 2024, they passed a controversial law to criminalize whistleblowers who leak ongoing investigations to the press. In Croatia, the solution to corruption isn't to stop stealing. It's to threaten anyone who dares to expose it. Before we reveal the 3 worst countries inside the European Union, we must widen our scope to the entire continent and the transcontinental states that shape it. Crucially, these scores are not foreign propaganda. They reflect the perception of the people who know these systems best: the local citizens, business owners, and experts living within them. This is how they see their own reality. If we expanded this ranking, Russia would sit near the bottom. The system is perceived as one where state power and elite wealth are inseparable. Today, this has reached the battlefield. A wave of high-level arrests in the defense ministry recently exposed how billions intended for the military allegedly vanished into luxury estates while soldiers lacked equipment. In Azerbaijan, vast oil revenues flow almost entirely upward. A small ruling dynasty controls both the state's energy wealth and its institutions, leaving ordinary citizens with crumbling public services and no meaningful accountability. In Turkey, the cost of corruption became a tragedy during the 2023 earthquake, when thousands of buildings, built through bribes and illegal amnesties, collapsed, killing tens of thousands. Meanwhile, in Belarus, corruption is entirely monopolized by the state. The national economy operates practically as a private syndicate for the regime's inner circle, where public wealth and state-owned enterprises are systematically drained to enrich a few loyal elites and maintain their absolute grip on power. When it comes to Ukraine, corruption is an existential battleground. Even during wartime, investigations uncovered massive procurement scams, like the infamous egg scandal, where the military was charged nearly triple the market price for basic food supplies. These revelations triggered mass dismissals and protests. Today, Ukraine is a theatre of internal conflict, a brutal clash between entrenched oligarchic systems and the intense pressure for transparency coming from both local whistleblowers and the European Union. Even Kazakhstan, a nation few people realise is transcontinental, fits this pattern. Its vast energy wealth is perceived to flow upward to a small circle of elites, rather than downward to the ordinary citizens who pay the price for a lack of oversight. Number 3. Romania. What happens when an illegal gas station explodes and kills people, despite 7 state institutions being warned for years it had no licence? Welcome to the Romania of the local barons. Scoring 45 points, Romania takes the 3rd spot. Its specific disease is regional political feudalism. Across much of the country, powerful local politicians, dubbed baroni by Romanians themselves, operate as untouchable lords. They control construction permits, public inspections, and the flow of European cash into their territories. When you control the law, illegality isn't a risk, it's a business model. The 2023 Crevedia disaster was the brutal face of this rot. A gas station operated illegally for 3 years. Firefighters, labour inspectors, and local authorities were all notified. Nobody shut it down. Why? Because the owner was the son of a powerful local mayor. People died because political protection was worth more than public safety. The same pattern infects European funds. The European Public Prosecutor's Office recently uncovered a massive fraud ring involving over 30 million euros and dozens of state-financed projects. Romania's anti-corruption agency continues to fight back and in 2023 even caught a powerful regional leader with a briefcase containing €250,000 in bribes. Yet despite these efforts, the system simply regenerates itself. The cost for ordinary Romanians is devastating. They fund this ruling class while earning some of the lowest wages in the EU, driving millions of their brightest citizens to abandon the country forever. Number 2. Bulgaria. How do you control a nation without being elected? You don't seize the government, you seize the prosecutors and the judges. Scoring 40 points, Bulgaria sits at the edge of the EU. Its specific disease is state capture, a system where political power, business interests, and the judiciary are fused into a single network. A prime example is the Capitan Andreevo border crossing. For years, a private network allegedly controlled the gates of one of Europe's busiest strategic borders, effectively turning an EU entry point into a private toll booth. This systemic failure is exactly why Bulgaria's full entry into the Schengen zone was blocked for years. The rot was further exposed in 2024 by the murder of Martin Bojanov, known as the Notary. His death revealed a shadowy club of judicial fixers who allegedly traded court decisions and manipulated investigations from within the prosecution system. While the government recently passed constitutional reforms to curb the Prosecutor General's absolute power, critics argue these networks remain untouched. A perception fueled by the fact that high-profile figures remain under international sanctions, like the Magnitsky Act. In Bulgaria, money isn't just stolen from the budget, it is used to hijack justice itself. For ordinary citizens, the lesson is poisonous. While laws are written for them, real power belongs to networks that no election can ever truly touch. Before we reveal number 1, if you're finding this video valuable, please consider supporting our project by leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming deep dives. And remember, if you want a follow-up video where we rank the 10 European countries that legally burn the most taxes through insane bureaucracy and public waste, write the word waste down in the comments. Number 1. Hungary. What happens when corruption isn't just a crime, but a core component of the state's economic model? Scoring 40 points, Hungary technically ties with Bulgaria this year, yet it takes the number 1 spot due to its long-term systemic trajectory. For 16 years, the recently defeated government led by Viktor Orban oversaw a system of crony capitalism. Here, corruption rarely involved secret cash. It was largely institutionalized. The ruling party used its supermajority to rewrite public procurement laws. According to the European Commission, Hungary has historically maintained one of the EU's highest rates of single-bidder contracts at roughly 35%, significantly above the European average. This meant tenders were often written so specifically that only politically connected firms could win. The symbol of this era is Lorenz Mészáros, a childhood friend of the former Prime Minister. A former small-town gas fitter, he became Hungary's wealthiest billionaire. His fortune built almost entirely on state and EU contracts. Meanwhile, historical opposition parties were widely perceived by citizens as equally compromised. However, the rot reached the very hospital beds of the citizens. For decades, the Halepens, gratitude money, was a systemic reality. In maternity wards, data showed that nearly 80% of families paid informal cash bribes to doctors just to ensure basic care. While wealth concentrated among a select elite, ordinary citizens faced a surge in food prices of over 200% across 2 decades. If you want the full picture, we've also made a video on the 10 least corrupt countries in Europe. As we showed there, corruption still exists, and in some cases, it can be extremely serious. But that is exactly the point. In those countries, we also explored what truly makes it possible to contain corruption, limit abuse, and stop the system from collapsing completely. You can find that video on your screen now. That's all for this video. See you next time.